This is Resonance, a podcast for leaders that unpacks the power of song, silence, and strategy.
We believe that great leadership begins with deep listening, not just to others, but to the still small voice within.
It's not just about being a successful leader, it's about being soulfully aligned as well.
In a world moving fast, Resonance invites you to pause and reconnect with purpose, people, and possibility.
We'll dive into some cool stories, celebrate with friends, and dig deep into the music too. 'Cause song has a way of saying what words cannot alone.
So whether you're leading a business, a team, or just trying to lead your own life with more meaning, this is Resonance.
Resonance.
Resonance. Hey folks, Steve Azar here. Welcome to another episode of Resonance into year 2. Excited for you guys to join us. Appreciate you guys so much. My guests, well, they're not my guests, they're my comrades. We have had a guest on. I always feel like they're my guests, no matter any time. But my comrades here, the smart guys in the room, wonderful, wonderful guys, Randy Harrington and Mike the Monk Guy Farrell. We've had a lot of fun doing this together. I've learned a whole lot. I hope you guys as well. Today, we're going to dig in on when leaders get it right, but then they doubt themselves. You know, I think that a lot of us have been in that situation where we won't accept the success because we feel like, well, did that really happen? Why that it wouldn't happen again? What if we have done this? I mean, you go into you spiral rather than celebrating the victory and moving forward based on that momentum. You stop it dead in its tracks, right? Randy, you discussed many times off air, why leaders who care so deeply about outcomes are often most prone to doubt. Why?
Yeah. Well, I know, as a performer, I would think doubt is just with you all the time. Doubt's like part of your shadow, I would think, that you have to sort of do kung fu with all the time to really bring that sense of I'm here and I'm ready to rock when you walk out on a stage. But we'll come back around to that. I think we can start, though, talking about doubt as saying it's a big deal. And doubt is a part of the human condition. It's nothing wrong with doubt. In fact, there's some really powerful information that tells us that doubt is essential for us. And I had my first really deep dip into doubt. Ooh, look at that. That kind of came out.
That was
It was at Chapel Hill. A gong. We need a gong.
Live in the doubt, have a deep.
So I'm listening to this woman, Doris Betts. She's an author at Chapel Hill. She's doing a speech, and I didn't really want to go to the speech. It was, oh, why am I here? And then she starts talking, and it was like she cut right through, and she starts talking to my heart. And she's basically talking about what she called the tribes of St. Thomas and the people who walked their lives as doubters. And we all know the phrase doubting Thomas. Oh, you're a doubting Thomas, right? And she says, you've got to love Thomas because Thomas understood that certainty is dangerous, was one of the concepts that she brought out there. That what it does is it blinds you to nuance. You stop seeing when you have this sense of certainty, and then that's all there is. The other thing she says is that doubt is a moral stance with Thomas. He said, they said, well, Jesus has arisen. He's like, all right, well, you got to prove that to me, right? I got to see that. I got to know that. I got to see it and touch it. And so we see this wonderful balance of faith, but this need for certainty or proof or what have you, so yeah. And the last thing that she said that I was really struck by was that doubt is your access to humility. Doubt and humility are tied together. And if you're going to be a good leader, that humility has got to be present. Every time I work with a leader and I walk out of the room going, dang, I don't want to hang out with that person. It's because they think they're all that in a bag of chips. They think they've got it all figured out. They know everything. They have no room for listening. I got nothing to do with them, right? They are not my people. I'm much more the St. Thomas kind of people. Those are the people who are scratching their heads, working it out, trying to figure it out, feeling that sense of maybe I don't have it all together. And that's why doubt is, to me, so important. It is foundational to the soul of a good leader, or Steve Azar, a great artist and a great musician. It's where the authenticity comes from.
I needed that. Thank you. I needed it.
Well, and I think, I think doubt, the idea of doubt leads to curiosity. It really leads to that aspect of questioning and I'm curious and, the term what if, when you start the question with what if. Now, on the other hand, I think the other aspect is you have to be very, very careful that once you feel like you've got it right, you can't let doubt creep in to derail that. And I'll use a great example. My book that I wrote, Sell Like a Monk. I rewrote that book probably 7 times. And the reason why is because I let doubt creep in.
Mm.
And then I started doing more research, and then well, gee, I got this, I ought to put this in there. I got this, I ought to put this in there. I mean, if I had to put everything in there on the research that I had, this thing would have looked like War and Peace, So,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think at some point you have to say, okay, I'm going with this, and especially after you've experienced success. So, if you're the New England Patriots, and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have, won how many Super Bowls, and all of a sudden they look at each other and say, "Gee, I think we ought to completely revise the offensive scheme because, there might be a better way to do this." And you've just won how many Super Bowls, and you think you might not want to screw around with that prescription.
They did do that, and then Brady went to Tampa and won one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There you go.
And Belichick went to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, with his
Yeah.
girlfriend.
See
I
how
know.
that works.
That's interesting from y'all's perspective. It's funny you bring up doubt when you get on stage. I don't know if I see it or view it as doubt, but I do go out there. You're so humbled that you get the opportunity that you usually do go out there going like, are they going to love it? Like you want
Yeah.
them to love it. So there is a sense of, I hate that word doubt because it sounds all 100% negative, but the truth is there is that I think helps you become successful.
That's right.
I think there's a lot of positivity that can come from it because you can go, oh, you spent this time feeling this way, but look what happened. Look at the outcome. It's interesting that you talk about sometimes that when you reach success and you see it, and then you start doubting what got you there.
Yeah.
It's one
Right.
thing when folks around you and your competition, I guess, is starting to catch up, right?
Right.
And how can you take it to another level that nobody else has done yet, and then they can try to repeat what you did. A lot of times you see a lot of copycats in every type of business.
Right.
With that said, for me, it was I Don't Have to Be Meat on Monday. I'll never forget. I had a really bad first album. My fault, their fault. Didn't matter. Bottom line was, I loved writing the songs and the co-writers and my experience with everybody until I got in the studio, and those guys didn't know what they were doing, and neither did I. So we were a perfect match for each other to make a really bad record, right? So, and you know what? Guess what? 2 wrongs, 2 negatives, they make
Yeah,
a
yeah,
negative.
yeah.
So, anyway, so I survived that record. What happened was during that period, I'd gotten to go into radio stations. The one good part of it with a lot of guys who are still friends of mine, radio promotion people that work for them, and we all became buddies. And they saw that when we played it live, it was nothing like the record. So we decided we used that time in front of radio for them to get to know what it was like live, got to do a bunch of shows. And for some reason, some of them decided in big markets that these songs were better than they sounded because they saw us do it live. They liked us and they decided, I'm going to give them a shot. And they worked in those markets that played them. But that was going to be the end of it. When I got my next chance, which was the big label Universal, which was Mercury at the time before we merged and all that, the story from listening back. I Don't Have to Be Meat on Monday was sitting on their desk for 2 years, on every record label's desk. So it's sitting there. Finally, I write Waiting on Joe, and finally we write this song with my producer, Ray Van Hoy, called How Long Is This Time Gonna Be? And that gets us signed. Well, I Don't Have to Be Meat on Monday had already been tested in some of the biggest markets in the country and with all my radio friends. So they were going like, you got to lead with that. Well, I had to lead with a hit, guys, or see you later. There was going to be not a second shot on this album. So I knew Monday was going to work because they said, my radio friend said, you got to go. This is going to work. And so we had that batting on our side, but the hierarchies of the label who weren't paying attention to that, we're going like, oh, we're going to start with How Long Is This Time Going to Be? We're going to start with Waiting on Joe, or we're going to start with Damn the Money. They never talked about I Don't Have to Be Meat on Monday. Now, the promotion staff did because they knew they were talking to the radio guys, and that's how we got in the door. But the hierarchy, the president and the vice, all this, they were not, it was almost like they were not in the same room and they weren't privy to anything. So we had to stop, all of us, and not talk about it until they saw me play a show right before we were going to release this first single. And at this point, we're losing, and they see the crowd respond to I Don't Have to Be Me Till Monday, and they go, that is what we have to lead. Like they woke up the next morning, guys, we have a great idea. And we're going like, oh my gosh. So yes, that's a fantastic idea. We didn't tell them that, but if they would have fought us at the very end, we would have fought back. So we didn't have to quite get there. But even after we got there, and we were at number 2, and it was number 2 for a while on the Billboard charts, and it was the longest charted record apparently of that time because it came out, the day before 9/11, and it wasn't a big hit until late spring and summer. So they were going like, maybe we should have led with something else. I remember hearing that from the head guy, and I'm going like, are you crazy? Nothing else survived 9/11. There was no other way to do it. But I remember going through that process in my mind and just listening to that, knowing that he could not be, he can't be right, can he? Because I had doubt in myself.
It's you're drawing an interesting concept there, the difference between doubt and second guessing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a subtle difference, but second guessing is that's the worst.
Well, I was armed and ready, but never had to use those bullets, which is a good thing. We knew that if they would have led with any other thing, then we would have never had a second song. So it was important that we did that, and especially coming out, like I said,
There's a lot going on in that story. First of all, I love this idea that crowds of people will tell you what they think. When it's like the people vote with their taste buds and with their, you walk into, I travel all the time. We all travel all the time. And you go into that place, you're walking downtown, an unfamiliar downtown, and you're trying to decide where to eat. And then you ask somebody and they say, oh, well, there's this one place that may be a little bit out of the way. And you go there and there's a line out the door of this place. And it's like, oh my goodness, people are voting. There's 19 restaurants around here and they're standing in line to go into that one.
Well, they're voting with their feet.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy, you know what? And Mike, think about this. Y'all just got me thinking. The head of the label and the powers that be had that song on their desk and in front of them for almost a year and a half, 2 years. So how could that be the song that they were going to go with when they could have gone with it 2 years ago? So I think that they were probably trying to go, oh, it can't be that one. So probably doubt crept in. How could it be that one when these other songs are the reason we signed him? And then they to plan A, which plan A was sitting there the whole time. Now I got to give them some credit because they were, Waiting on Joe came because of after a Monday, because of the waiting. That's what came, the inspiration and stuff. So I was able to pull that out of myself. And then how long is this time going to be came from just a conversation with the head of the label after he said he was signing me with Waiting on Joe. And it was just days later. And they go, well, we decided we're just going to wait after they said that we were doing it. And then I go, well, how long is this time going to be? And so all of a sudden I heard nothing else that he said. And I raced over to my producers and I said, this is what happened. We wrote the song. I sang the vocal, which rarely ever happens, on one take, not one change.
Wow. That's cool.
1 or 2 in the morning, woke up the next morning, played it for my manager. And he said, you can't play that for them. That's a rock song. And I said, we have to play this for them. And they know we can't play it for them. Well, we did. He goes, it's going to ruin everything. We did play it for him, and we got a call immediately and said, okay, we're going. So that was all these moving parts. And then they went with Monday, with I Don't Have to Be.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you guys, the doubt was all swarming. It was like clouds and thunderstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, full of doubt. All that, a lot of weather.
And I would say, to bring in a Benedictine principle, one of the best ways to make sure that doesn't knock you off your feet or take you off the rails or whatever is this idea of stability. The Benedictine principle of stability, or this groundedness or this rootedness that says, I believe in what I'm doing. I believe that I'm going in the right direction. I believe in the process. We hear athletes talk all the time about the process,
Yeah.
But they believe in the process, and they know that if they stick with the process, they'll see the results. I think when we talk about doubt, a lot of times the doubt comes in when we doubt the process.
Yeah.
And that's that's where the challenge comes in. If you doubt the process, then you're probably going to change it. And then that's maybe what's going to knock you off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, process, I wonder, they always talk about process. It's a process. And then I wonder how many of them buy into that and how many of them think it's just words. You know, the ones that end up winning it all are getting or making a run are the ones that do buy into it.
Two quick thoughts. The first one is that when you are doing something that is uncertain, you're going to be walking in doubt. That's all there is to it. And so one of the phrases I like that's come out of the modern world of tech is this concept of sense making as opposed to making sense. And it sounds semantic, but it really isn't. Making sense means that you're going to apply your system of values and whatever you think about it to see if it makes sense to you. Whereas sense making says, what's actually going on here? Sense making goes from the point of view of the phenomenon you're looking at and having it come out. And so when you go into sense making, that's where the phrase KPI or key performance indicator came from. So the idea is if I'm going to do this, and Mike, you've used the phrase, well, if then, if this is going to happen, then what? And so what you're looking for is, what should we expect to see occur? If Monday is the song, we should expect to see people rocking out to that song when we play it live. And by golly, there it was. And so that audience reaction was a key performance indicator that really facilitated the confidence that you had or the label had to make that the song that was going to be the single to lead you out there. So I think for all of us as leaders, you want to be asking yourself the question, what should we expect to see as an outcome? And then presumably, is that a positive outcome? There's something's going to happen with what you do. So that's kind of the first piece of it.
But
and
Mike,
the second, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I can come back to this.
Can't count. I was thinking you already said the second one. Go ahead.
No. Well, the second one is it's a bigger thing that we could jump into, and that is that organizations actually intentionally build doubt into their systems. And specifically, these organizations that are, I think it's an acronym, HRO, high reliability organization. And so an airline is a high reliability organization. 99.9% is not good enough, really, if you're an airline. You really, especially as it relates to safety. You've got to be like, oh, we've only lost 17 planes this year. And, we flew 10,000 of them. So that's still not good enough. Hospitals, high reliability. So whenever you have a high reliability organization, what they do is they actually build doubt building systems into the systems. So you're checking and double checking and rechecking and then assuming the worst and then going back and triple checking one more time. And I saw this directly doing work at Marshall Space Flight in Huntsville, Alabama, where you've got this entire organization of scientists, physicists, and brilliant people who are believing that failure is not an option.
Yeah.
So when failure is not an option, you got doubt about everything. You are walking around doubting. And you contrast that sensibility to SpaceX, Elon Musk's world, and they're like, their mantra was, to their engineers was, you can waste anything but time. In other words, go, blow up the rocket. If that didn't work, blow up another one. If that didn't work, blow up another one. So they were in this iterative. They didn't have to worry about doubt because they had a checkbook, I guess, that they didn't have to worry about. NASA, on the other hand, takes a whole different approach to it, and doubt is built into it. And so when you go into an organization like that as a consultant, you have to not only acknowledge the doubt, but it's kind of something defining.
Yeah, boy, it is. Well,
So those are my rants.
No, that's good. Well, with NASA, and obviously there's an end result there that has to work out.
Yeah.
Or lives are gone, right? They're blown up.
And these and that all came from horrible disasters. That's where that emerged from.
Right. Well, I couldn't imagine going to work and spending all this time thinking about doubt. But I guess in situations you have to. It's really interesting, Mike. From your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think the couple of things. Number one, when you're creating something, it's natural to doubt. And I think you have to doubt. I think the challenge is once you've proved a success, now the leader comes back and doubts why the success happened. There's a difference between doubting at that point and continuous improvement.
Yes, well said.
Continuous improvement is just continuing to analyze and say, how can we do it better? How can we do it better? I mean, it gets back to another Benedictine principle called lifelong learning. how can we continually improve and learn and fine tune and refine all the things, the successes that we've had. It's when doubt creeps in from a standpoint of, well, I think we should just blow it up and start over because I don't think that worked. That's a whole different ballgame. So I think it's really important that as a leader, you understand that you always want to improve. Continuous improvement is essential to success. However, once you have success, what you can't do is doubt why you got there or how you got there.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
So I'm going to lay a big word on you, which I'm prone to do.
Hang on, I'll get the gong out.
Well, I don't know if this is gong worthy yet. We'll have to wait and see. But there's a word, heuristic, Heuristic, heuristic. A heuristic is a framework of understanding. So a good example of this might be when you walk in an urban center, like you're walking in New York, you're walking in wherever. There is a heuristic about what you do, how you need to be. You need to be alert. You need to be moving. You need to have your awareness on. You need to be minding traffic. But after you get that heuristic in your mind, you can actually then start enjoying the city, right? And then you can start actually looking at things and seeing things. So what the heuristic does is it sort of allows you to change your concentration from the normal basic. We use heuristics all the time. We drive. If you're thinking about driving, you're probably not driving well, because what a good driver's done is built all these heuristics about this is what I know what it's like to drive on this freeway at night or in the snow or whatever it is. So I'm in London, and I think I almost died in London 31 times in 2 days, the first couple of days I was there, because I was on foot, but the cars drive on the other side of the road. So I'm looking this way to ensure that no car is coming.
Yeah.
When in fact it's coming from this way.
Yeah.
So Randy's heuristic was dysfunctional. I had a heuristic of traffic moving, and it completely rearranged my heuristic. And so what it did was I literally got to the point, especially if I was coming out of a pub, right?
Yeah.
Just gonna say, because that happened all the time there. So I'm stumbling out of a pub, and I had to stop and say, "Okay, buddy,
Yeah.
you're not in Kansas anymore. Don't just be strutting across the street right now." So I had to sort of put this big old doubt hat on. Don't trust anything you think for the next 3 days, because otherwise you're going to be a pancake in London.
Yeah. So funny.
So heuristics, though, the reason I bring it up is doubt is something that will force you to change the way you think about the way things are. And the shoehorn of that, the thing that pokes that is another kind of big word, and that's anomaly. An anomaly is that weird thing that shows up that's like, how did that happen? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. And boy, when you find an anomaly, instead of freaking out about it, you should love that anomaly, because that anomaly is going to do amazing things. It was, anomalies are what. So
we're married to.
Yeah. Well, so it's like, I'm trying to find.
It's one of a kind, right?
Well, so I've got a great example of that. Okay, so Steve, you and I are golfers. Okay, how many times do you hear of a PGA Tour player? Well, first off, in order to get to the PGA Tour, their heuristic is the fact that they have honed in a great golf swing. Okay,
there you go.
They know how to make that great golf swing work, but they also understand that when they're in a tournament, when they're in competition, they can't think about that golf swing. They have to be able to know that golf swing's automatic, and therefore they can react to what's going on, the weather, the greens, whatever it is, the conditions, all of those kinds of things. But now all of a sudden they stand up on the sixth tee and they block one dead right out of bounds. There's your anomaly.
Yeah.
Okay. And now all of a sudden they shoot 75. And the next thing that you see is they're on the range with their coach, and they're trying to figure something out because they blocked one right on the 13th tee.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, 6 months later, you look and they're still on the range, trying to change everything, trying to figure it out. They're tumbling down the rankings, the money winning rankings. And all of a sudden they're gone for 2 years.
Yeah. Forgotten there. Exactly.
Yep.
Went crazy.
They've forgotten the heuristic because of an anomaly. And now all of a sudden it's created this downfall.
That's almost worth a gong. It's like worth some sort of. See if I can find a shaker in my studio or a timbre.
So So just to kind of to really underline what you're saying there, we, human beings have been looking at the night sky for thousands of years, and through all of that, pretty much the general consensus was, well, the Earth is the center of the universe, and everything is kind of moving around us, and that was all well and good until this one dude named Copernicus, just gets kind of hung up on the fact that for a couple months out of the year, it looks like Mars is moving backwards. That just it just doesn't make any sense. It's this one little, and so doubt sneaks into Copernicus, and then guess what? We have the Copernican revolution. All of a sudden, we begin to understand, oh, gee whiz, guess what? The Earth isn't the center of the universe. The Earth is actually moving around the sun, and everything that we understand about Enlightenment thinking happened. The same thing is almost true with Einstein. He was looking at very specific, tiny little changes, I think in Mercury, tiny little anomaly that led him to understand that gravity and space-time were operating in a different way. So when you find these little things, and even with the golfer, I would say, did that golfer then, was that golfer able to come back with now a even more robust heuristic of understanding? Oh,
It just totally depends. I mean, sometimes
Right.
no, sometimes, I mean, you got these windows, it's interesting the pros that when they get in and they figure it out and they know they don't have to win the golf tournament the first day. And they know that if they can manage to shoot under par the first couple days, they made the cut. And if you do it again and again, you're in the hunt to
Yep.
win. They get very, very consistent. You got guys, Tommy Fleetwood, obviously a big name around the world now, hadn't won until this past year, and he's been in the hunt to win so many. He's finished second, third, fourth, but he's had a big career because
Right.
you knew he was going to be up there in the running because he figured out how to play 4 days. His confidence was always there, and it was because of the commitment he made, not only to that swing, but to everything, just his diet, his workout regime, the people in his life, that commitment, everything was in a good spot. And because of that, you saw the result on the golf course. Golf is the one game that if things aren't going right really well in your life, built around you, the people aren't healthy around you, the life isn't good around you, that you cannot go to the golf course most of the time, Mike, wouldn't you agree, and leave it, there. It comes with you, it follows you in every shot and every moment and everything because it's such a mental game. So interesting, but commitment is extremely important. And what happens when that commitment loses his confidence, I guess, right?
Yep. And I think, you can think about, Einstein, Copernicus, whatever, the anomalies that they understood allowed their thinking to evolve,
right.
to expand. On the other hand, the anomaly that the professional golfer shanking one right,
Yeah.
what happened there is his thinking dissolved.
Yeah, he lost faith in the entire heuristic at that point.
Lost confidence.
Think about that. You need this here
Yep.
to make this here work.
Yep.
I mean, everything goes sideways. It's unbelievable. And look at many times, this is interesting. You look at Tiger Woods. How many times has he changed his swing in his life because he got older and he started to figure out other things? He didn't rely on the one. He needed to be able to be confident enough and committed enough in every swing. Well, the swing that got him there in the very beginning when he was a kid, he couldn't do that anymore.
Right.
So he had to evolve. So,
Right.
I'm sure doubt crept in his mind all the time, but you would never know it with him because he was an anomaly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, but I think that's a great example. He understood that his body wasn't able to do the same things that it could do when he was in his 20s versus when he was in his 30s, especially with all the injuries and everything. So, but again, he wasn't letting that anomaly of age and injuries, he wasn't letting that completely dissolve his thinking about his golf swing. He was thinking about it from a standpoint of how do I evolve my thinking on my golf swing to adapt it to the situation I'm in now.
Interesting that you think about it. The only people that really doubted, you don't know what was going on in Tiger's mind. But for us who watched Tiger become from that little kid on the TV show all the way to now, you felt like he doesn't doubt. The world may doubt.
Right.
And what he's about to achieve, winning the Masters again and doing that, there's no way that's going to happen after all he went through. but he did because he wanted his son and his daughter to experience. He wanted the hug that he gave them to go back, the hug that he used to get from his mom and dad.
Exactly.
And he never got to do that at that level with his kids. And that was a driving factor.
Absolutely.
And those hugs, all of a sudden, he's the dad.
Yep.
He's the parent. Can you imagine the feeling of him being on the other side of that hug? And you think about it. Well, Tiger, to me, the anomaly in him is he's made folks like me believe there ain't no way he's not coming back.
Yeah.
You can forget. And I still think I still believe. But the world spends a lot of time doubting the impossible. He's done the impossible,
right?
You know.
So you're hitting on a concept that I would underline by saying doubt is a signal, right? It is just something that is coming into your head and then what we do with that signal, that's the Tiger difference. Tiger's taking that signal and going, yeah, well, now I'm going to be able to go back and fix this and I can come back. And he has confidence now that he can take that signal and convert it. It's a signal, not a weakness. That's what it boils down to.
And I would argue, like Steve said, I don't think Tiger's ever had any doubt.
Me neither.
I think even today, I think he still thinks he can win out there, Now, everybody else is doubting, but I think that he I would bet if you were a little bird on the wall at Tiger's house these days, you'd see him still working his tail off from a physical standpoint, knowing that he wants to get to that point to give it one more run,
So he's always kept his body in the shape now that golfers want to be in now and try to be.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He was the beginning of all of that. So,
Absolutely
he's a true first one to actually be a crazy in shape athlete, So with that said, these other guys were great athletes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying it, but
I hear you.
Yeah.
He worked out before he played golf and on weights.
Right.
Who's doing that? You can stretch out.
And I mean, look at the difference between he and John Daly.
Exactly.
Tiger's a gym rat. He's working out all the time. John Daly's idea of working out is a couple of beers and a pack of cigarettes. So.
I was on that diet for a while. Yeah. It was.
You think about the difference, but yet John was able to achieve legendary success early on with two. When you win one major, you're kind of lucky maybe, but when you win two, you're not. It's a big difference. I mean, that is a huge
and that's the athletic piece for him. I mean, John still is a great athlete.
John Daly is a spectacular athlete. And I think it was Tiger who said, if I had the ability that John had, then I would have won double or whatever he said. I don't remember what he said. Bottom line he said that he would have won so many tournaments and so many majors. Because he noticed this thing. Now, I've been on the golf course many times with John. And the first, you think it's power. And it is. But it's not. Because I'm telling you, of all the people I've ever played golf with, and watching them put their hands on the club, like John's hands were born to be on that club. And with the short stuff around the green, the chipping and all that, it looks like butter. It looks like velvet feels. It is the greatest thing I've ever seen on a golf course. And I was going like, oh my goodness, that is the magic right there.
Yeah.
How can he have those hands that are of grace? And that's what they are.
Yeah.
But yet he's known for tee it up, let it fly, like how far can you hit it and all that. But man, I'm telling you, and he was also a good field goal kicker. So he was a good putter, good chip around the greens. They said he was a really good basketball player. He could shoot it from anywhere. So you think about those things with him growing up, he had touch,
Right.
And that's
right.
So I'm thinking about his brain and his neural system is what I'm thinking about. So there's obviously highly developed neural pathways that are super highways in him that are little cow paths in mine, right? He's really built an infrastructure. And I think this is an important point to bring up. When you are training, when you were talking about Tiger training in his home every day, he's not just building the muscle, and he's building this neurology, this neural frame that is going to enable him to make all of these subtle adjustments. And that's what I'm hearing about Daly, is on the short game and whatnot, and the butter piece. I mean, that there's just this highly complex pathway. And I'm going to throw a word out that I like very much. It's kind of one of my word of the days. It creates optionality. In other words, It's not just he can now play on any golf course, and he can play in several conditions. So as this neural framework gets locked in there, opens up the options that he has. He's not constrained by circumstances to hit shots. He can go beyond that.
And they're always paying attention to the heuristic part. They see it all. They see, they see all of what they probably are so prepared, like NASA, when they go out there. They've gone through all of these exercises in their mind, but they're so confident. Now, John and Tiger train totally different. I mean, like you said, John is an anomaly in himself because he's able to do what he's done in his career, but he's also a star. Just like Tiger's a star, they are very charismatic, and the world is drawn to both of them. No matter what, as different as they are.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is because of those neural pathways that they've built, it allows them to keep the self-doubt from creeping in because they already know what they can do. Now, they might need to tweak it one way or another based on health, based on injuries, those kinds of things. But they've got that down, and they know that they have no doubt whatsoever that they've built that into their system, however they've done it, whether it's Tiger through his physical training and work or whether it's John just through his natural ability. They've got that, and both of them, I would tell you, and I see John when he comes here to Sioux Falls all the time, and both of them, when they step on the golf course, even today, expect to win. There is no self-doubt. They expect to win.
Well, because they know that if they get themselves into this position, then they know that everybody else sees who it is when they're on the course. And we don't know the feeling of being on the course competing against them. Yeah. And when they do position themselves, then they know, especially Tiger, of course, because Tiger, you put him, he gets in a position. It's like, I don't want to go against him. Well, you do want to go against him, but you don't. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So the bottom line is I still feel, even with this leg thing with Tiger, now I know it's getting to be so physical, he's made a still, but I still feel like we haven't seen the end of that.
That's an interesting prediction. I think that's something we can, I agree with you. And as a non-golfer, Tiger opened up the game for me. And I bonded with Tiger on Xbox.
Hey, you think about
this. Very good. Yeah.
Go back to Tom Watson at the British Open, the Open Championship now.
Yep.
He was 60 years old, right? 59, 60, right? And he was one bad hop away from winning the Open.
Absolutely.
So if you look at that and you think, well, first of all, he came on he loved playing over there. He was an incredible ball striker that never left, but he was almost 60. Got 60, playing against 23, 24, 25, 20, 30, 31, 32, 40. You're 60. And yet he played the best golf of the week and loses in a playoff.
Right.
Think about this. Tiger's going to find that course in that moment that suits him, and it's going to be game on again. It's going to be a big event because he's only going to play the big events. It could be Augusta again.
Well, he owns Augusta.
Look at Freddie Couples.
That would be where I would expect him to do it if he's going to do it. Would be Augusta. Now the other piece of that is it'll be interesting to see if he decides to go out on the Champions Tour.
Well, I think he'll do some plan.
Yeah, if he does, and he doesn't have to walk, and he can ride a cart, he'll absolutely dominate the Champions Tour.
That is 3 days.
It's a Cinderella story. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know, and no Cinderella to that story. Seriously, you think about that, having that less 1 day of golf for his back and his body.
Yeah.
And then having to get a ride in a cart. You're 100% correct. Now, what's that going to do to him when he does have to play Augusta and you got to walk up and down those hills, up and down those hills?
Well, that's the key. That's the key. Yeah.
He's got to be in shape. But nobody knows that more than him. And Freddie Freddie makes the cut every year? Every year.
Yeah.
Freddie is going to be 90 and making the cut. I mean, he's got a bad back. But, holding up for 4 days and competing at the end is the difficult part.
Yeah.
So what you guys are saying is that doubt is a critical part of this game, and it's a critical part of how we think. And so it's not about getting rid of it. It's about using it. And it's about understanding what you do with it when it shows up in your brain. Do you acknowledge it? Do you welcome it? Do you go, ooh, thank you, doubt. I needed this moment maybe I need to take a step back. There's a guy named Daniel Kahneman, I think, and he talks about system 1 and system 2 thinking. And he says that doubt is the separator between system 1 and system 2. System 1 is go, 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 fast, 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 make the decision, get it done, right? Just boom, boom, boom. And system 2 is slow it down, buckaroo, figure it out. Let's go one step at a time. Let's figure out where we're screwing up. And so doubt is that thing in between those two that where you're moving from. As the doubt disintegrates, then you're in system 1. As doubt emerges, you move to system 2. And I think that's an easy way to think about how to use doubt as a tool,
right,
to get things done.
And I think a great way to do that is reflection, is making sure that you're taking time for reflection to say, and there's nothing wrong with doubt.
That's right.
As long as you use it the right way.
That's right.
And when that doubt begins to creep in, that's a great time to hit the pause button and reflect on why do I have the doubt, and how can I take that and use it from a positive perspective, whether it's continuous improvement or revising the way you're doing things or whatever the case may be, rather than having it completely derail you.
There's so much self-talk that goes on, and this is what you were talking about, Steve, with the whole social circle of your life when you walk on the golf course. It's all that self-talk that's going in your head.
Yep.
And if doubt feeds that negative self-talk, then you've got a whole different kind of storm going on in your mind.
And not compete on a golf course with doubt.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's no way. I'm telling you. And that's why I feel like Tiger is the anomaly that's never doubted himself.
Yeah.
So he's the one guy I feel like. I don't know about Jack and his time, what he sort of went through and all that, but Tiger's just different because Jack didn't go through all the ailments and all of the craziness that Tigers had to go through in the media.
Right.
And it was just a different time and some Tigers self-inflicted, some not. So the bottom line is he's just had a lot he's had to endure, and he would have been a candidate for doubt, like being the doubt king, like king of doubt.
Yeah, right,
King of
right,
doubt, but
right,
he has not
right.
been. So it's been interesting. And you guys, I've never considered doubt as a word for positivity and moving forward. Maybe I use it like that, but I've never thought about it like that. So I'm glad we got to discuss this.
Well, I'll underline it as a final note here, and that is, if you look at the research and you try to understand, you do postmortems on why bad decisions were made, and overconfidence is the number one reason people make crappy decisions. They are like, they're so certain of it. And they'll hear him say, I was sure, I was absolutely positive. And so this is a place where doubt could have done a little work.
Wow.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. I love
Yep,
that.
Yep.
I love that.
All right, Steve, bring us home.
Well, I've learned a lot today. I think we went into this thing thinking about, when you do win and you're successful, why do you doubt that? Well, to me, it's not such a bad thing to doubt it if you're looking ahead and trying to evolve and trying to get better, because maybe what you did today is not going to work tomorrow, especially in the age that we live in technology and how life is moving so fast now. Everything's different. Everybody's different. And I think that you could use doubt as a tool, first of all, for humility. Second of all, to build confidence. And when it is game time, that doubt, there's a point in trying to win that you do forget about the doubt, because everything is connected. All the work's been put in, all the commitment's been made. And when you do that, it's a victory. But don't get complacent, and don't sit there and go, I am the king of the world, because you can be toppled pretty quick. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. There you go.
It all comes down to Humpty.
It all comes down to Humpty.
All right. Well,
I didn't want to do the Andrew Dice Clay version.
How's that for finishing up this episode of Resonance with a children's rhyme? There you go. That pretty much sums it up. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Resonance. You can find us on all the popular podcast platforms. And if you can't find us, just go to resonanceleader.com. You'll find us there. Don't forget that we're available if you're interested in bringing us in. We've got a great opportunity to do that, and Steve will play you some music, and Randy and I will, talk smart, and we'll go from there. So check us out on all the favorite places, and fellas, we will see you next time.
Enjoy. Later on, guys. Good time. Thanks for listening to Resonance. Find us at resonanceleader.com.